Work effectively in the security industry. In this competency, you will learn the following. Identify and comply with legal and procedural requirements. Organise and complete daily work tasks. Identify and access future learning opportunities. Identify and comply with legal and procedural requirements.
Your security assignment is to maintain order and protect private property. Take no prisoners approach to the security function will normally end in trouble. Careful attention to the rules of the road will mean that you will arrive at your destination safely.
The statutes, common law and organisational, legislative and procedural requirements are the guidelines for operating lawfully in the security industry. These include Australian standards and quality assurance, trade practices, client service standards and occupational health and safety. In general terms, security personnel need to understand the law in the following areas: the use of force, trespass, liquor licensing, duty of care, powers of arrest, search and seizure. This will need to be applied to your individual work area. Keep in mind that your workplace may have specific laws and procedures that apply to that particular authority. Generally speaking, the power for the security officer to use force whilst carrying out their duties are limited to force required to arrest, force required in self-defence, force required to prevent a serious crime, and force required to remove a person from private property. The use of force must always be reasonable and proportionate. Warning: using force in this way to arrest a person will cause positional asphyxia. This means the person dies from not being able to breathe in the position you've placed them. This man died. The law for security officers for protecting private property is usually referred to as trespass. A person becomes a trespasser on private property when they enter without permission and refuse to leave when requested to do so.
Normally, you would ask the person to leave, give them an opportunity and time to comply with your request, and then and only then would you use force as a last resort.
Some states put this in legislation, whereas others rely on the common law. Liquor licensing laws apply when a security officer is working in a place where alcohol is available for consumption.
It is important for security officers to remember that alcohol consumption by persons under 18 is not permitted. Refusal to leave a licensed premises when asked to do so is also not permitted. Drunkenness in a licensed premises is not permitted. And behaviour such as being violent, quarrelsome or drunk is not permitted. Most liquor outlets throughout Australia operate under a code which requires the responsible service of alcohol.
Owners and occupiers of property have a duty of care to remove foreseeable risk. You're employed to assess, prevent and report risk to your supervisor. If you do this effectively, this will prevent your employer being sued for loss or damage caused by the foreseeable event. The power of arrest for security staff is the same for any citizen. Remember, a person can only be detained by you if they have committed a crime. The search of a person and seizure of their goods is only permitted in certain circumstances. Those circumstances are where the individual gives consent to the search or where the security officer has arrested the individual and requires a search to ensure their own safety, or where they believe the individual may have an item in their possession which could aid their escape. No power exists to search a person to find items that the security suspects may have been stolen. Any items found must be placed in a secure bag. These items remain the property of the arrested person. The specific application of the guidelines for the job to be done and any relevant legal and procedural requirements need to be confirmed through discussions with authorised supervisors. Your workplace procedures may prevent you from applying the specific law. For example, it may be policy at your workplace not to arrest persons for certain offences. Check with your supervisor for the appropriate application of the law to your workplace. Your assignment procedures could include action to be taken in cases of distress alarm, bomb threats, prisoner escort, handling of valuables, detain and search, use of electronic surveillance equipment, use of firearms and batons, minimum force, emergency evacuation, seizures of prohibited substances. These must be clarified and confirmed through discussions with supervisors and management. You should then seek further information and clarification of legal issues associated with your job specifications and procedures if required. Ensure you are familiar with the procedures for reporting potentially unlawful activities. Be sure to review all assignment instructions, including those from client, supervisor and colleagues, to identify any legal or procedural compliance considerations which must be taken throughout. Your own work performance and conduct needs to demonstrate commitment to complying with these considerations. It is important to be professional and use your initiative to improve your own performance. Organise and complete daily work tasks. As a security officer, you will have many routine and critical response activities that you'll need to undertake during the course of a shift. Your first job is to establish what tasks the employer requires you to perform during a shift.
I'm just going to brief you on what's required for today.
Okay. Yep.
The pass have been changed from this pass yesterday, which is the yellow pass.
Yellow standard pass.
Yep, from yesterday. Today they have to be issued with a green pass.
Okay, that's the green one there.
That's correct. That's the
Okay,
one. All right.
terrific, no problem.
That's correct.
Yep, no problems at all. Yep.
Okay.
I think I've got all that.
These tasks can be confirmed by referring to your site instructions, job description, and standard operating procedures, and can include control of access to and exit from premises, crowd control, and escort of property and people. These written instructions must be confirmed with your immediate supervisor. Each task needs to be ranked as to when it is likely to occur. Daily means every day of the week, weekly means once per week, response means only as a response to something that has already happened, and program means at a date and time that is determined by your management. For example, safe door check Friday at 6 p.m. Then when you start each shift, you'll need to classify these tasks in order of priority, from most important to least important. Remember to highlight tasks that are associated with a deadline. For example, lock-up patrol must be completed before 9 p.m. If a task takes longer than you've allowed, it may be necessary to reschedule part of that task so the deadlines are met. If it is a daily task, it may be necessary to inform your supervisor that more time needs to be allotted to this task. You may need to check if other tasks can be completed during other shifts. This is referred to as developing a work plan. The work plan is very important because it guarantees the work set by your employer is completed or is carried over to other shifts when time does not allow completion on your shift. The work plan should take into consideration the nature of shift work. It may be more sensible to undertake written or computer-based activities which require concentration and accuracy at the start of the shift. Then undertake physical activities at the end of the shift when tiredness can be reduced. This is a real factor for night shift security staff working alone. These activities are often referred to as keeping busy. This helps to remove the real danger of falling asleep on the job. Most company employers will establish work performance indicators, usually found in your job description. This will help to verify that the work you are doing meets the company's expectations. They will normally conduct a review of your performance every 6 to 12 weeks and will allow for your input and suggestions. Where this is not the case, check regularly with your supervisor that your performance and the progress in completing your designated tasks is satisfactory. It's important for you to maintain your enthusiasm, attention to detail, and willingness to meet your employer's expectations for the duration of your time at a designated assignment. It may be necessary to use a range of business equipment and technology, such as email, fax, and photocopiers, in order to complete your assigned task. Make sure you are familiar and comfortable with the use of any required technology in your workplace. Identify and access future learning opportunities. It is important that as a security officer, you seek feedback on the quality of your own performance and identify areas where improvement is needed. This can be achieved through communication with your supervisor, staff, and fellow security officers. Opportunities for professional development, for example, career planning and development, can be identified through consultation with the appropriate persons in your organisation. Appropriate support should be sought in order to assist your own performance. This is important in order to achieve the goals and objectives set out by yourself for this workplace. It can be as simple as seeking feedback on your own performance. Information regarding learning and competency development should be recorded and maintained to meet the specifications of your organisational requirements. Parts or all of your basic training will need to be refreshed every 3 years through practical application outside of courses and workbooks. While it is important to update your theoretical knowledge of your training, you'll need to put this knowledge into practice on a regular basis. This will include first aid and resuscitation, conflict communication, as well as correct techniques for physical restraint as applied to current legal requirements.